She is raising her children, looking after her aging parents, managing her marriage, and going to work. And when someone asks how she is doing, she says fine, because there is no space in her life for any other answer. This episode is for her. Assalamu alaikum, beautiful souls, and welcome back to From Zakam to Shifa. Today I want to talk about one of the most invisible forms of exhaustion that Muslim women carry. The exhaustion of the woman who is caught in the middle, caring for aging parents on one side and raising children on the other, with her own needs somewhere at the bottom of a very long list that nobody is helping her get through. This is what researchers call the sandwich generation. And in Muslim communities, it has a particular shape because the care of aging parents is not just a cultural expectation, it is an Islamic one. The Quran speaks explicitly about honoring parents and caring for them in their old age. And that obligation is real. But what is also real, and what almost nobody talks about, is what it costs the woman who is carrying that obligation, usually almost entirely alone. A sister told me recently that she had not slept a full night in 3 years. Her mother has dementia. Her youngest child is 4. Her husband works long hours. And when people at the mosque ask how she is doing, she smiles and says, Alhamdulillah, because the truth would take longer than anyone has time for. Let me describe what this life actually looks like from the inside, because I think many women are carrying it in isolation, not realizing how many other women are in the exact same position. It looks like waking up before anyone else to check on a parent who had a difficult night, then getting children ready for school, then going to work, then picking up children, then cooking for everyone, including dietary restrictions for an aging parent, then helping with homework, then sitting with the parent in the evening, then trying to be present for a husband who also needs something from her, then falling into bed at midnight and starting again. It looks like fielding phone calls from siblings who are not carrying the same load, but who have opinions about how the care should be managed. It looks like navigating the medical system on behalf of a parent who does not always understand or agree with what the doctors are saying, in a language that is sometimes not the parent's first language. It looks like watching a parent decline and grieving that decline in real time while still needing to function. And it looks like doing all of this while managing the guilt that she is not doing enough for her parents, the guilt that her children are not getting enough of her, the guilt that her marriage is suffering, the guilt that she is exhausted and sometimes resentful, and then the guilt about the resentment, because a good Muslim woman does not resent caring for her parents. Research on sandwich generation caregivers consistently shows elevated rates of depression, anxiety, physical health deterioration, and what clinicians call compassion fatigue, the specific exhaustion that comes from caring for others beyond your capacity to sustain it. It is not a character weakness. It is what happens when a human being is asked to give more than any human being can sustainably give. I want to address the Islamic dimension of this directly, because for many Muslim women, the care of aging parents feels non-negotiable in a way that makes them reluctant to even name the difficulty. To say this is too much feels like saying they do not want to honor their parents, and those two things are not the same. Islam is clear about the obligation to honor and care for parents. The Quran says in Surah Al-Isra, "Your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be kind to parents. Whether one or both of them attain old age in your life, say not to them a word of contempt, nor repel them, but address them in terms of honor. This obligation is real and it is weighty. But Islam also says, in the same tradition that emphasizes the care of parents, that there should be neither harm nor reciprocating harm. La darar wa la dirar. The obligation to care for parents does not extend to the point of destroying yourself in the process. A woman who is running on empty, whose health is deteriorating, whose children are suffering from her depletion, whose marriage is eroding, that woman is not honoring her parents in a sustainable way. She is burning through herself to meet an obligation that was never meant to be carried by one person alone. Islamic jurisprudence is also clear that the primary financial and practical responsibility for a parent's care belongs to the sons, not the daughters. In many South Asian and Arab Muslim communities, cultural practice has reversed this. The daughter or the daughter-in-law becomes the primary caregiver, while the sons remain financially or geographically separate. That reversal is cultural, not Islamic. Naming it is not disrespect to parents. It is clarity about what Islam actually requires of whom. I want to talk specifically about something that causes enormous pain in Muslim families, but is almost never addressed directly: the unequal distribution of caregiving between siblings. In most families, one person ends up as the primary caregiver, usually the one who lives closest, or the one who said yes first, or the daughter who was always seen as the responsible one, or the daughter-in-law who has been shaped by cultural expectation to take this on. And the other siblings, however many there are often present in opinion, but absent in action. They call to check in, they express concern, they offer advice on how the care should be managed, they visit occasionally and leave, and the primary caregiver is left carrying the daily reality, while others carry the illusion of shared responsibility. This situation is both a family systems problem and an Islamic one. If caring for parents is an obligation in Islam, that obligation belongs to the children, all of them according to their capacity. A family conversation about how that obligation is distributed, who provides what, financially and practically, and how the primary caregiver is supported, is not a betrayal of family harmony. It is the honest management of a shared responsibility. To the woman who is the primary caregiver, you are allowed to ask for help. From your siblings, from your husband's family if the parent is his, from community resources, from professional care services. Asking for help is not admitting failure. It is recognizing that this is more than one person was designed to carry. I want to be practical here because naming the problem is not enough. You need something you can actually do. The first thing is to have the family conversation. All siblings, or as many as are reachable, in the same space, physically or virtually, to map out what the care requires and who is doing what. This conversation is uncomfortable. Have it anyway. The alternative is one person continuing to carry everything alone until she collapses. The second thing is to investigate what professional and community support is available. In Ontario, home care services through the local health integration network can provide in-home support for aging parents, personal care, medication management, companionship. Many of these services are covered or subsidized. Many Muslim families do not know they exist or feel reluctant to use them because they feel it means the family is not caring for their own. Using these services does not mean you have abandoned your parent. It means you have found sustainable ways to support them. The third thing is to name your own needs. out loud to someone who can help address them. A therapist who understands caregiver burnout, a support group for caregivers, a conversation with your doctor about your own health, which you have probably been putting last for a long time. Your capacity to care for others is directly tied to whether anyone is caring for you. That is not selfishness. That is basic sustainability. And the fourth thing, the hardest one, is to release the guilt about not being able to do everything. You are one person. You were given an obligation that Islam intended to be shared. The fact that it is not being shared is not your failure. It is a family and community failure. And recognizing that distinction is the beginning of being able to ask for what you actually need. The sister I mentioned at the beginning, the one who had not slept a full night in 3 years, she eventually had the conversation with her siblings. It was not easy. There was conflict. There were tears. There were siblings who felt accused. And then slowly, things shifted. Her brother started contributing financially to professional home care. Her sister started coming 1 weekend a month to give her a break. Her husband began taking the children on Saturday mornings so she could have 3 hours that were entirely her own. None of it was perfect. None of it was everything she needed. But it was different from before. And in that difference, in the small spaces that opened up, she found herself again. Not fully, not immediately. But she found a version of herself that had room to breathe. And from that breathing space, she began to build something she had not been able to build when she was running on empty. A life where her love for her mother and her love for herself could coexist. That is what sustainable caregiving builds, not perfection. A life where love does not have to destroy you in order to be real. This is From Zakhm to Shifa. Honoring your parents is an Islamic obligation. Destroying yourself in the process is not. Both things can be true. And the family that holds both things at the same time, that shares the load, that gets support, that makes room for the caregiver to also be cared for, that family is the one that can sustain the love long enough for it to mean something. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum. If this episode reached a woman who is carrying this alone, share it. She needs to know she is not the only one, and that asking for help is not failure. Short clips from this season are on Instagram at From Zakhm to Shifa,